The canyon was a graveyard of shadows, its jagged walls swallowing the cries of a fallen warrior. Takoda, a Comanche leader whose name meant friend to all in his people's tongue, lay sprawled across a rocky outcrop, his lifeblood seeping into the dust. Hours earlier, a fierce skirmish with a rival tribe had torn through the plains, arrows flying like vengeful spirits. Takoda had fought with the strength of a mountain lion, rallying his warriors to protect their sacred lands. But the spear to his side and a fall from his horse left him broken, abandoned by his men who believed him claimed by death. The sun blazed overhead, indifferent to his fading pulse, as he whispered prayers to the spirits, unsure if they still listened. Takoda was no ordinary man. At 30 summers, he carried the weight of his tribu's hopes, his leadership forged in battles and tempered by a quiet dream of peace. His dark eyes, now clouded with pain, had once sparkled as he taught young warriors to track deer or shared starlit stories with his daughter, Diana. He had seen the world change, settlers pouring across the plains, their iron plows scarring the earth, their guns silencing songs of the buffalo. Yet, even in war, Takoda clung to a belief that understanding could bridge divides. Now, as vultures wheeled above, their wings slashing the sky, he wondered if that belief would die with him, leaving his people to an endless cycle of blood. Far from the canyon, in a dusty frontier town where hope wrestled with hardship, lived a girl named Clara. 10 years old, with hair the color of prairie grass and a heart too big for her slight frame, she was a child of the West. Her family had come seeking gold but found only loss, her father taken by a ratolisnack's bite, her mother toiling to keep their small cabin standing. Clara roamed the wilds, her bare feet toughened by sun-baked trails, her mind alive with curiosity. The townsfolk spoke of the Comanche with fear, weaving tales of raids and savagery, but Clara's mother had taught her to see beyond such stories. Every soul carries a light, they say, even if it's hidden by shadows. Those words were Clara's compass, guiding her through a world of mistrust. On a golden morning, driven by a restless urge she couldn't name, Clara wandered deeper into the canyon than ever before. Her satchel bounced against her hip, stuffed with a crust of cornbread, a tin canteen, and a scrap of cloth she called a bandage. The townspeople warned of dangers, cougars, rattlers, or worse, the ghosts of warriors lost to time. But Clara felt the land's pulse, its secrets calling her forward. As she climbed a rocky ridge, her sharp eyes caught a glint of crimson staining the stones, a trail of blood winding down into a shadowed crevice. Her breath hitched. An animal? A person? Fear tugged at her, but compassion pushed harder. She edged closer, peering into the abyss. There, on a narrow ledge 20 feet below, lay a man. His buckskin shirt, adorned with beads that shimmered like river stones, marked him as a warrior, a Comanche, she guessed. His chest rose faintly, his face etched with agony, blood pooling beneath him. Takoda. Clara's heart raced. The stories screamed in her mind, danger, enemy, run. But his eyes fluttered open, meeting hers, and in them, she saw not a monster, but a man, Someone's father, Someone's son. Esta, she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. Without a second thought, she began her descent, her small hands gripping jagged rocks, her body defying the sheer drop that threatened to swallow her whole. The climb was a battle against gravity and doubt. Stones crumbled under her fingers, sending shards tumbling into the void. Halfway down, her foot slipped, and she dangled by one hand, her legs swinging over nothingness. Her pulse thundered, and for a fleeting moment, she questioned her choice. Why risk everything for a stranger? What if he was the enemy her town feared? But her mother's words echoed again, kindness doesn't ask for a name. Gritting her teeth, Clara found a foothold, her muscles burning as she lowered herself to the ledge. Kneeling beside Takoda, she pressed her canteen to his cracked lips, letting water trickle down his throat. His cough was weak, but his eyes locked onto hers, bewildered, grateful, human. Who are you? Takoda rasped, his voice a dry whisper, his English halting from years of disuse. Clara, wrapping her cloth around his bleeding side, met his gaze. I'm Clara, she said softly. I'm here to help. Her hands moved with care, cleaning his wound with water, binding it as best she could. Takoda watched, stunned. He had seen settlers as invaders, their hearts closed to his people's ways. Yet this child, with her fearless kindness, upended everything. As she worked, Clara spoke of her life, her father's laughter, her mother's strength, the loneliness of a town that feared the unknown. Takoda listened, and in her words, he heard his own story, a people fighting to hold on to their world, misunderstood by those who called them savages. The sun sank, painting the canyon in hues of fire. Clara realized the truth, Dakota couldn't take climb, and she couldn't take carry him. They were trapped. Panique clawed at her, but then came a spark of clarity. Her father had once shown her how to signal for help, a trick from his trapping days. Scrambling to gather dry sagebrush, she struck flint against stone, her hands shaking until a spark caught. A small fire bloomed, sending a plume of smoke curling skyward. As they waited, Dakota shared tales of his tribe, their dances under the stars, the songs that carried their history. Clara drank in every word, her fear replaced by wonder. In that moment, an unexpected truth dawned: they were not enemies, but two souls bound by the same hope for a better tomorrow. Hours later, hoofbeats echoed through the canyon. Clara's mother, frantic after her doctor's absence, had seen the smoke and rallied a posse from the town. Ropes descended, and strong hands pulled Dakota to safety, Clara climbing beside him, her small hand gripping his for courage. At the canyon's rim, the townsfolk hesitated, their eyes wary of the warrior. But Clara's story poured out, her climb, her choice, her belief in his humanity. Something shifted. Instead of chains, they offered blankets; instead of weapons, water. Dakota's warriors, tracking their lost leader, arrived days later, expecting a fight. What they found was a fragile truce, born from a child's courage. The emotional climax came in the weeks that followed. Dakota, recovering in the town under Clara's watchful care, spoke with its leaders. His words, once sharpened by war, now carried the weight of gratitude. Clara's act had shown him that peace was possible, not through force, but through understanding. The town and the tribe began to talk, to trade, to see each other as neighbors rather than foes. Clara, once just a girl with a satchel, became a quiet hero, her story whispered in saloons and around campfires. Dakota named her little star in his tongue, for she had guided him home. Years passed, and the plains bore witness to a new story. Dakota led his people with wisdom, forging alliances where once there was only blood. Clara grew into a woman who carried her mother's light, teaching children, Comanche and settler alike, to see beyond fear. Their unlikely bond proved that one act of selflessness could climb the steepest divides, turning strangers into kin. In a world scarred by conflict, Clara's climb reminded all who heard her tale: kindness is the truest strength, and a single spark of humanity can light the way to hope.